Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. It's your host, Sean. We are bellying up to the bar today. It's a serious topic. It's a rarity, but we're going to do what we always do at the bar. And if you know anything about service members, we're going to probably laugh at more shit than we probably should have and at inappropriate times. And it's not meant by any harm to anyone else that's out there that's listening. Just understand that's who we are. That's what we do. It's nothing personal. But we do want to hear your stories tonight. We do want to let you know that we're out there. I'm a firm believer in the buddy check. If you don't know what that is, ask a vet and they'll tell you what a buddy check is. So take the time, check on a buddy at every time. And buddy doesn't necessarily mean male or female. I had a great conversation with my best friend about that. Buddy is your battle buddy. So we've got a great opportunity to talk with another fellow service member right now. He started this organization, 22 a day, Veteran Lives Matter. And that number means something. We're going to get into what that number means for folks, how that number carries forward. So before we get into all of our house cleaning, I'd like to introduce President, I think. President? Is it President? El Presidente? El Presidente, Chris Larsen of 22 a day, Vet Lives Matter. Everyone needs applause, brother. Welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, and he's in Maine. So he's a brave man sitting in his car right now so his children don't attack him. And he's in Maine at this time of the year. So I'm figuring he's like, there's 4 feet of snow outside of his door somewhere. So,
thank goodness.
It is, I guarantee you it's cold. And for those of you that are watching on my different social media platforms, make sure you leave us your comments. You let us know that you're out there. I have had a little bit of, I don't know what's going on with StreamYard here of late, but something's going on where I couldn't see some comments before. So trust me, I'm not ignoring you if you tell me something. So let's get into a little bit of house cleaning. As always, sticker and a cause is the first thing up today. So sticker and a cause today is brought to you by last week's guest, Clay Barnum, Clay Drums. We love Clay. He's phenomenal. We met his mom, who I think we're going to end up with his mom on the show too, which is pretty funny. But she's a wild lady. He sent us a T-shirt, and we let Lucas, my 4-year-old, make the determination of what was going to be the sticker that went up, because they sent us 6 great stickers. I posted them online. So we let him choose the sticker for sticker and a cause. So this is the one he picked. It's a set of fists that matches Clay's fist. That say drum love, because he's got drum love tattooed on his hand. So if you love the drum, make sure you check out Clay, check out Clay's drum. And we're going to put this up on the board. We'll have to find a spot for it. He's got his new album getting ready to come out, or the album's out. Stomp Out Hate, Love, Repeat. Phenomenal guy. Also, before we get going, the man who actually introduced Chris and I, which is pretty awesome. Our own personal media guru who has taught me how to actually do all those nifty picture posts that you see. I couldn't have been able to do them without Dibs. Dibs is the one that showed me how to do it. So I got to thank Dibs for that one. We're going to go ahead and if you're looking to actually get your media together, you know your stuff sucks and you need somebody who knows what they're doing. Make sure you reach out to Media by Dibs, your connection for all things media, from logos to marketing campaigns to flyers and more. Making your media a reality. Mention the phrase belly up to the bar for a 10% off of your first order and for a free consultation. So make sure you're checking out Dibs for all those things. And the last thing is if you want to send me your sticker, you want to contact Dibs, make sure You can hit us up on Facebook, the Above the Bar Podcast. Our Twitter is the only one that's goofed up, which is at Above the Bar 4. I couldn't get the Above the Bar Podcast on there. So it's at Above the Bar 4. Our Instagram, the Above the Bar Podcast. Our Twitch is the Above the Bar Podcast. And our email is the Above the Bar Podcast at gmail.com. You send me a letter, send me a message. I'll give you an address where to send the stuff to, and we'll get your stuff up there. Now, all the house cleaning is done. It's completed. Something's over my mic here. See if that sounds any better. All those things are done and over with. Now we're going to get to talking to Chris and a subject that should be close to everyone's heart. But I know as a veteran personally, we've all got stories. We've all known somebody, whether we like it or not. We lose every day 22 veterans to scars that you can't see, scars that we carry from things that are hard to explain to the average person. Things like, and it's not always, and I'm going to let Chris get into more detail on this, but these aren't just scars that are, hey, I was in combat situation, I lost somebody. We lose vets because they feel guilty that they survived, that they're still around, and they don't know how to talk because we get told, wow, you're pretty impressive. You did this, you did that. You're such a strong person. You were able to go through these things. I can tell you right now, for me, I didn't understand it and understand the impact of PTSD and the stresses of just being in the service fully until I read the book, Shadow of the Sword. I don't know if you've ever read that one or not, Chris. I'll recommend it. That's a Marine Bronze Star winner, his combat situation. When he explains what he did, you're like, that doesn't sound like a guy who won an award. That sounds like a guy who was scared out of his life and just wanted to get out of that situation and bring everybody out with him. I highly recommend the book. And he dealt with things and he couldn't explain it. At one point in time, he tried choking out a neighbor's dog with his bare hands. So it's different. So I'm going to turn this over to Chris. Let him tell us a little bit about his organization. Also, folks, 22 a day Vet Lives Matter is their Twitter, is their Instagram. Twitter is 22 a day VLM. The Instagram is 22 a day Vet Lives Matter. Take a time right now and go follow that page. Boost that page up. I've got over 600 of you that follow me on Instagram. There's over 1,000 of you that check us out on Facebook. There's no reason that all of you can't go over to that page right now on Instagram and make his phone crash while we're having this conversation. Well, hold on. Wait till after the conversation, then let it crash.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Chris, again, welcome, brother. It's on you, man. Let's talk.
All right. So, yeah, I started about a year and a half ago. I started off with a basic shirt design to try to bring awareness, because a lot of people, unfortunately, just don't understand how many veterans commit suicide every day. And that number is average. But another thing about that 22 is that's only people in the VA system. So if you have vets who never went into the VA system, then they don't really look at that number. Homeless vets, that doesn't look at it as well. So that number is really just an estimate. It could be lower, it could be higher, but being the fact that only once in the VA system, that's what's scary. Especially a lot of our Vietnam vets who never went into the system because they didn't know what to do. They came back home, they got spit on, they got called all these horrendous names. So they just kind of went into hiding. And thankfully, our modern veterans, they don't have to deal with that as much, but they still do. So I started the organization about a year ago. It came official. I used to donate the money that I made off my shirts and organizations, and then I started looking at them, and I'm like, a lot of these organizations only use 75 or 80% of what you donate to the cause, and then the president or the founder puts the rest of the money in his pocket. So that kind of upset me. I think anybody who profits off of veteran suicide to me is as low as they can go. I think they're dirt bags. I don't care what their company is. I won't call those companies out. But I
Chris, can you get
decided I
closer to that
wanted.
mic? Can you get closer to the mic?
Yeah, yeah. Is
Okay.
this better?
I don't know. We'll find out here in a minute. Rose will tell us.
All right. Yeah, sorry. So a lot of what I was saying, a lot of nonprofits, they end up profiting. They don't put all the money organization in it that it's made for. You'll see the presidents, you'll see them line their pockets with money. And I just don't have. I'm just not okay with people benefiting off veteran suicide, and their suffering. So I decided to start my own, where I put 100% of all profits. It goes towards the cause. So that's a big thing. And I've been fortunate enough. I rep for a small company. Actually, it's not small. It's the biggest in the world. Smash It Sports. And the owner Rick, he saw my vision, what I wanted to do, and he really opened the doors for me to expand the way I have. He's helped me design custom bats. And part of the proceeds of all these bats that we make that has 22 a day on it, he donates back to the organization. And then he just, after that, I read all with his son Ricky, who's been a huge supporter. He's helped me, come up with different ideas of things I can do to put our name out there. So I've just had a lot of support from those two individuals, among many other. Our goal right now is we want to buy property. A lot of the veterans I talk to, they have a hard time adapting back to civilian life. I don't know if you had that issue when you came back, Sean.
It was different. So I jokingly always say, because I spent 12 years of my 20 on recruiting duty. So yeah. I always say that my insurgents were uneducated parents.
Yeah.
So what was weird for me was going from wearing, and I experienced this in a weird way, and I don't know if you ever did. So my weird civilian experience was if I walked up to you in jeans and a t-shirt and I was dressed, I still had my haircut and everything, and I said, "Hey, how you doing? You ever thought about being a Marine?" You'd look at me like I had 15 heads and be like, "Get the hell out of my face." I've actually been called everything but a child of God doing that.
Right.
And then, but you flip around and I could walk up to you and I'd had that uniform on and it was like, well, I appreciate it. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it was a very different experience. So that was my experience with that transition from one to the other.
Yeah, I experienced that a little bit. When I came back to the civilian sector, my hardest thing was the respect. Military, everybody loves for the most part. I mean, you're going to get some who will talk bad about the military, but if they see you in uniform, like you said, there's so much more respect. It's how are you? Thank you, this and that. And I'm not saying any of us does about. I never did it. I could care less what people thought about me. I did it because I wanted to serve my country. But when you're out in the civilian world, if you say hi just like you normally would, people just shun you.
Yes.
And it goes as far as like when you're in the military, you have to follow rules, and if you don't follow those rules, that could mean the guy next to you dying or the lady next to you dying. So I struggled with walking into a store like Walmart, and you got people walking in the exit door and people out the enter door. I would fire me up because I'm like, man, you couldn't even walk on the grass in the military. You walk on the grass, you're gonna get in trouble. Here, these guys are walking in and out the wrong doors. So that was a huge challenge for me. And then always being alert. That's something I still struggle with now. I was a 12 Bravo in the Army, so I dealt with explosives. They called us glorified infantry because the infantry couldn't use explosives without blowing themselves up. So we did a lot of the room clearing kind of stuff, route clearing stuff like that. So like I catch myself even today, if I'm driving and I think a vehicle behind me for longer than they should, I start getting antsy. I'll cut down a different road that I don't even need to be on just because I want to see if they're following me.
Oh, wow.
Um, it's just those type of things is really I've struggled with personally, and I know a lot of people that I've talked to, um, they struggle with that too. And one of my favorite things I say is the the word friend to a civilian and to a military personnel is so much different.
Hmm.
Civilians like, oh, that's my friend, that's my friend. Well, in the military, you become a friend, they're gonna die for you. In the civilian world, they'll call you a friend, turn around and stab you in the back. So when you experience that, it's like, man, I just want to be back in. I don't care if I'm getting shot at. I don't care about any of this because at least I know this is real. In the
Right.
civilian world, you go to it's not, and I know I struggle with that. I know a lot of people struggle with that. That's when that feeling of depression sets in. That's when we start to kind of hibernate in our houses, and especially with this COVID. The COVID is crazy. I mean, people are scared to go out. They put us on lockdowns. That's the worst thing you can do to a vet who's struggling mentally. Um, you know, it, you put us who's mentally depression, and you tell them you can't leave your house. That's when they start overthinking things. That's when those images come back. The PTSD really kicks in. So that's something that I've been battling right now. Is those kind of things with these our vets who just don't go out because of mandates and lockdowns and vaccines. And I'm not trying to get political by any means, but
Right.
with all those things, they're like, I don't want to go out there. You're violating me. And now they're stuck home and they start thinking crazy.
Well, it's funny you mentioned, we were laughing about this, and you'll appreciate this. I liked it when people were like, and I don't know if you ever saw the guy's post where he was like, you guys think that they really put a microchip in the vaccine to track you? We were all over places, and we didn't know where the guy. We're using like Blue Force Tracker and shit like that. We couldn't tell you where the guy was next to us, and we could see him in the system when there. Do you really think they spent that money to track your dumbass when you're at Walmart and to know when you're dropping a
Right,
deuce? It didn't happen.
right.
And if you're
Yeah.
scared of needles, what year did you go in, Chris?
I listened in 2007. I got
Okay.
medicaled out in 2013.
So you missed the air needles then.
Yeah.
Oh, there I can remember, like, just talking about needles for a minute. I can remember a friend's dad telling me that he watched a guy get cut by a needle, and I didn't understand it when I was a kid. And then I got in the Marine Corps and we walked that gauntlet of
Oh
needles,
yeah.
and they're like,
Yeah.
don't move. This will cut you. And I'm like, oh, this is the shit he meant. He watched a dude get his whole arm sliced open doing this. You have no idea. I like the pucker factor that was there for me
Yeah.
that day was unreal. Now you talk about these guys though coming home, and you saw these organizations, you saw this money going out the door, not going to where it needs to go. Um,
Yeah.
what do you tell people when they're obviously, we want right now today everybody to go check out 22 a day VLM.com, make a donation. Like Chris said, 100% of everything is going to support vets. But what do you tell folks that when they're going to look at these organizations? Do you have any advice if somebody comes to them and says, "Hey, I'm with DAV, I'm with VFW, I'm with any of these, Legion, Sons of American Legion, any of these other larger organizations?" What do you tell folks when they're starting to look into this?
It really comes out. Before I used to, try to steer people away. But then it made it sound like it just didn't sound right to me. It didn't sound very professional. It didn't sound, I wanted it to come out. So really, what I tell people is do your research. A lot of those, organizations, you can see what they put into each thing. And really, when it comes to me, obviously, I want people to donate to the organization so we can reach our goals and our mission. But if people are donating somewhere that's bringing awareness, I mean, that's really what matters. Obviously, like I said, I don't want someone to go donate here or there, do what we're trying to do for our mission. But really just do it. There's a lot of people out there who really do want to help. And just because I don't agree with the way they go about it, the outs won't.
Okay. Now, now what is now you talked about the land. Is there
Yeah.
any what is the so say tomorrow, and I wish this would
Yeah.
happen, but I doubt it's going to happen. Say somebody hears this and goes, "Hey, man, you're buying 100 acres. Here's the money to buy it. What are we putting on there? What is going to be the the parameter? I guess parameters that probably ain't the right word, but I don't know what else to say. So what's going to be the ability for somebody to go there and be a part of that?
And part of it is being able to stay at the premises or build on the premises. What exactly are we
Right.
talking about?
The answer to that is yes. And Big Al, buddy of mine, he asked, can people volunteer to help out? Like how can people be involved, or how can people be over at that land and build on that and be a part of that?
Yeah, so yeah, you actually hit it just how much I'm looking for. I'm trying to buy is 100 acres. So what our plan is, we want to give our vets a new purpose of life, right? Um, part of the property, 50 acres. I'm just going to use that out of there. So 50 acres are going to be built with duplexes. That's where the vets will live. It's going to be a secure place so they feel safe, be fenced. It'll be all that. And then the other 50 acres is going to be kind of like an outdoor therapy project. So hiking trails, maybe even put a small range out there and have someone who's certified to go out there and work with them. Even though, yeah, we were in the military, we know how to shoot, but still, just to have that professional there.
Unless you're
Um,
in the Air Force, y'all don't know how to shoot shit.
yeah, and you can't have Marines go out there because someone drops a crayon, they're going to be busy
Hey,
looking at the ground.
hey, look, as long as it's a green crayon, it shit tastes like sour apple. I don't care. I still don't look. I told you and Dib this earlier. I have no idea. In my time, I retired in 2014. I never heard the crayon thing. And then all of a sudden, like 5, 6 years ago, that blew up. I'm like, what is this crayon thing? Somebody will find it
That my
for me.
buddy packages of them.
They're like juicy
but
fruit.
oh yeah. So on this premises, we're also gonna have like a community building, and that building's gonna have like a small gym, a couple of different things that they can stay active in, so they don't have to go. If they struggle with social anxiety, they don't have to go to like a big name gym to work out. If they want, they can stay right there. Have a pool table, some games and stuff like that for them to go in and really just talk to each other. And that's what it comes down to as well is, we just want to be able to talk to each other. We want to be able to another veteran to truly understand where we're coming from. I've also talked to a few people here local who are licensed social workers that's already said they would volunteer after the VA closes. We're going to start off with once a week to come and just be available there. So if a vet's just having a bad time, on a weekend or at night, they have someone there they can speak and they follow the same rules as you would if you see a regular counselor, where they can't go talk about it with anybody. That's like a patient client thing. Yeah, doctor is unless if you kill myself or I'm going to go shoot this person, they have to report that. And I also have someone who's going to run addiction classes, whether it's alcohol. A lot of people don't realize 1 in 3 veterans have a substance abuse, whether it's drugs and alcohol. That's a statistic that's not put out there. And that comes down to the depression. I'm going to be honest with you. I had an addiction to drugs. I started using them because every time I closed my eye, I saw my best committed suicide, who I started this for. He committed suicide 5 minutes after I left his house. I wasn't even home yet. He had it was murder suicide. He shot his wife. He was having an affair with someone that was here on a green card from Iraq. He shot her, then he shot himself. And unfortunately for me, I co-signed on his car. So I had to verify the vehicle. I got interviewed by the state police because I was all through his paperwork. I had to see the windshield that had, the brain
Right.
as that is all over it. So every time I closed my eyes, that's what I saw. I talked to the VA. Like, hey, listen, this is what's going on with me. I can't deal with this no more. They kept giving me medication, and it actually made my nightmares worse. I started having visions of myself committing suicide, whether it is from shooting myself, running off the road at a high speed. So I started seeing these things, and I was telling the VA, I'm like, listen, I need your help. And they didn't take me serious. And then, like a lot of us do, I turn to substance. I started to keep myself awake. And I was into it pretty heavy for about a year and a half, 2 years. And my final straw broke when I just couldn't handle it anymore. I started feeling that I had got addicted. And I did my last suicide attempt. That was almost 2 years ago. Um, and I shouldn't have lived. I made it out. I am now in sobriety. God's given me that to work with is I no longer am addicted to my substance. And now I share my story to help other vets out. I think once we get into that kind of a routine of where we try to hide it, then it just worse and worse. You hit rock bottom, and then you think now the only way out is you want to take your own life. And then that's a real scary reality. I think the scariest thing I went through was when I realized I didn't care if I lived or died anymore. People can say that all day long. They can say, I don't care if I wake up tomorrow. But until you truly mean it and you take steps to make that happen, it doesn't really hit you. And then when it hits you, you're like, I'm here for a reason. And then that's when I really went full boot down in my organization. I said, I'm not going to let anybody else have to suffer like me. That's my goal. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to talk to every vet who's struggling out there.
Right.
But that's my goal. I don't want anybody to have to live how I lived. And, like you said, unfortunately, all of us is, even in the civilian sector, don't get me wrong. I don't want people to think like I don't care about civilian sector. Even people who don't, that's lost someone to suicide, whether it's a civilian who never served or someone that served, it's still painful, and a lot of people at that point put blame on themselves. And that's, I, for a long time. He committed suicide in 2011. And it took me to probably 2018, 2019 to admit to myself there's nothing I could do. I hated myself. I'm like, why didn't I just stay a little longer? Why didn't I just stay at his house a little longer? But no, I went on the door and I turned around and left. And if I would just let him open the door, what could have been? What could have been? But that ate me up. That chewed me up inside. That put me in a bad place. So, back to that. It got a little off topic there, but so we're gonna have people that do counseling for substance abuse. We have someone that runs a program here already, and then one thing that really gets me pissed off. I told you I get wound up when we were talking about this a little bit. Is the VA. So I talked to I have people here locally. He's like, hey, listen, I don't know what to do. I'm losing my mind. I'm going crazy. I'm having these thoughts again. And the VA stopped doing their PTSD clinics. And I'm like,
I want to give you the other side of the VA for a second, though. And
yeah,
I hear it often. I truly believe it's like this. You've heard of Johns Hopkins Hospital, right?
Yeah.
Johns Hopkins is a phenomenal hospital. There's another one in Maryland called University. These are amazing hospitals. You can get anything done. Bethesda, you can have anything done in Bethesda. It's amazing. But there's also down the street from me, St. Peter's. You ever heard of it?
No.
Yep. And that's the way I feel like some of these VAs are. There are some VAs that the people in there that are amazing. They take really good care of us. I'm at the VA here in Albany, Stratton VA. I can say nothing bad about that place. I promise you, brother. It is amazing. But it's in a major city. It's in a capital city. It's next to another major hospital. But I have a friend of mine who's out in the middle of nowhere that has a smaller. They don't even have a VA hospital. They have a VA clinic.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It doesn't get attention. It doesn't get the right stuff. And I don't know if that's what you were going to say, Chris, but I have to defend the VA only in that manner. Like, really depends upon where you're at, how good that VA is. Our VA here in Albany is good. I know other ones that suck.
Yeah. So That I find that with a lot. I've had a lot of vets who say their VA is great, and I've had a lot that's had really bad experiences with the VA. And again, I'm not trying to bad talk anybody. I'm just saying my concerns that I've had to deal with and what other vets have had to deal with is it's all around the country. When COVID hit, they stopped doing their groups.
Mm-hmm.
At least here, and I know in a few other states they stopped doing
They did it all over the
it.
place.
I understand. Why can't you be outside in a circle? You can make that room so you're not right on top of each other in a closed room, right? And then I brought up to the VA here local. I'm like, we all have computers. You guys have tablets. Here's another thing too, for the vets listening is the VAs have thousands of iPads. They're free for you to use. All you got to do is ask your counselor for them. Tell them that you need one so you can do video meetings with your counselors and stuff so you don't have to go in. They have them. Just ask for it. They'll give it to you. A
Really?
lot of people realize that. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I actually found that
no
out
idea.
from another vet. Yeah. I found that out from another vet. He couldn't make it to the appointments. He lost his life. So he get there and he told him, like, what do I do? They're like, oh, well, we have a warehouse full of iPads. It's for you
Shit.
guys, but nobody ever asked us for them. Yeah.
Well, that's like a lot of those things. We don't know what's out there. We don't know. And I'm going to throw this out there to anyone who has a vet in their life that tells you, I don't have blank. I'm not going to the VA. Make them go to the VA. Make them take it. It absolutely is. I've known a few vets that are like, well, I didn't lose an arm. I didn't lose a leg. I don't have these scars. I don't have these injuries. I'm not going to the VA. You need to go.
Yeah. And that's a sad thing, even in the veteran community, you kind of said a little bit earlier, but, a lot of reason why vets are afraid to get help is because when you're in the military, they tell you drive on. Don't worry about it, drive on. And what happens is you drive on so much, it just keeps eating at you, and we see it today when, we have celebrities depression. Dak Prescott, the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, prime example. He came out publicly, talked about how he was struggling with depression, and the media attacked him, telling him he's not a leader. He's not a good role model. Well, to me, that's the best role model out there. There's too much stigma towards mental health across the military and civilian. A lot of it's because mental health you don't see. I have a traumatic brain injury. You can't see that part of my brain is permanently damaged. I live with that every day. So if you tell somebody, oh, I'm just not in the mood today. I'm drained. I'm wore out. Well, I'm hurting. They're like, well, you're walking fine.
Right. That's that invisible scar. That one that people can't see.
The invisible wound.
And it's, folks, when you hear me say things like buddy check, again, I'll say it again. That doesn't necessarily mean, just a male service member. That's a female service member. That's a battle buddy. That's a term we use in the services. Take a minute and reach out. When this show is over with, reach out to somebody in the service and just say to them, how are you? How's things going? What did you experience? What most of us don't realize is I joined in 94. Chris joined in 07. I spent the first 7 years of my career. There were things going on in the world, but they were skirmishes. They were issues. They were problems, but they were nothing over the top. You have service members that have just hit retirement age this year that have spent an entire career knowing nothing but combat, knowing nothing but loss, knowing nothing at all but pain. And I'm going to put this out here, and I've said this before, and I will stand on my head, and I got you, Big Al. I'm good, man. Big Al said, how are you? I got you, Big Al. I'm good. But I've said this 1,000 times. most people don't realize, and we've always called the greatest generation the World War II generation. I take nothing away from them.
Absolutely.
These are men and women that
Absolutely.
went off to combat for years at a time. It wasn't 6-month deployment. It wasn't a 1 year clip. It was years at a time. But
Yeah,
we've
no
never
body armor,
had,
nothing.
yeah, no, nothing. You know, that's why when you see those tin helmets and the bullets got like ricocheted off it, you're like, that's pretty damn impressive. Uh,
Right.
that being said, this right now is the first time in human history, you have a all volunteer major military force. There is no one who's been drafted into the U.S. military. You can't trust me because it'll get you in trouble. You can't go. The judge can't send you to the services. That's not a thing. It doesn't get you out of anything. It doesn't work that way. This is an entirely volunteer military service. So that means that for the last 20 years, every person knew there was an opportunity to go to combat. They knew that this was a possibility, and they did it. You know, it's that one of my favorite sayings is that I probably get it wrong. It's while you sleep at night, rough and ready men stand ready to do bad things. I know I got it wrong, but it's the antithesis
Yeah,
of it.
it's along those lines.
Um, understand this, folks, that when you see that young person that says they're going off to the service, thank them because they've only known combat, they've only known war, and we have a military service like that. So when I say to you, reach out to one of them and just say, "How are you? How are you doing?" And you know who I'm talking about. That guy that zaps off the handle out of nowhere, it's not your fault. There's something else there. That young lady who spends a little too much time at the bottom of a bottle, there's something else there. Understand that they're asking for your help. We just don't know how to do it. We don't know how to do it. We weren't taught how to do it. We were told, suck it up, buttercup. Let's go. Give it a good tug. Reach down and check yourself and move on. What Chris is doing is it takes heart to just say what he said, to put that out there. And I promise you, in every shape, way, and form, that every service member you know has had some incident where bodily harm sounded like a better idea than what they had to go do. So take that moment and check on that person. And folks, I don't care if they're 18 or 88, go check on them. Ask them. Take the time today and check out 22 a day, Veteran Lives Matter, 22 a day, VLM.com. Make sure you're supporting financially. Make sure you're sharing their site. Make sure you're sharing this message if you're listening. Share it to all the pages you have. There's probably a vet out there right now that needs to hear this, that needs to hear that somebody else is listening. So take that time. So we're working towards the land. Do we have a time frame, Chris, where it's like this is it? Do we have anything locked in, or is it because this is a fairly new project? You just got the 501c within the last few months?
Yeah, I actually it's a year month that I officially the 501c title. It took I filed it almost 2 years ago. The
Good Lord.
issue is COVID shutting the government down. It worked instead of 100 people working, they had 10 people working. So I
That sounds
and
like
I
the
even did
government.
the fast track. But a couple of things I want to touch on that you said. One of my slogans I use is "You're not alone." And I always tell people, if you really care, you want to help, go to a veteran, let them know they're not alone. That simple statement that can give them new hope. And letting them know that people do care. And I'm not saying that people don't care, but when you're actually here, you're not alone. It changes your mood dramatically. That can get you back on that right path. Something that simple. And I want to touch on, because I know suicide is, I hear a lot of people, when it comes to veteran suicide and suicide in general, is people call them cowards. I agree to an extent, because they didn't get the help. It takes more courage to seek help than it does anything. But to understand and really be in the mind of someone who's been through as the person that just wanted to end it all, coming from me is, when I was that low, I didn't want my family, my wife, I didn't want my kids, I didn't want them to see me in pain anymore. That's the biggest thing is when we suffer, we don't want to feel pain because we chose to do what we did, and we have to live with those decisions and those actions that we've made or may not have made that could have made this difference or not. So I think we need to open our hearts a little bit more and not be so close-hearted when it comes to those situations. You know, I didn't want to deal with it. I was thinking it because I didn't want my family to have to deal with me in pain all the time and deal with me being in a bad mood and not being snapping. When I'm asleep, to wake me up, you touch me, I'm trying to strangle you. Those kind of things. I didn't want them to deal with that. And I think that's people don't see that side of it. They see it from the other side and it's wrong. Way more courage to ask for help. That was one of the hardest things I ever did. And I did briefings.
What makes you feel weak? It makes you feel weak.
Yeah, I talked to generals when I was in. That was easy. But to go and say, hey, I need help, that is the hardest thing you'll ever do. Especially, again, man, to say I need help, that kind of makes you feel like you're not a man anymore.
You're not allowed to.
That's how
you're not allowed.
Yeah.
You're not allowed as a man. Big Al says, he's during the holidays, but all year round. That you got to ask.
Yeah,
you got to talk to these guys. It's not just a holidays thing. It's a year round. No. Have that conversation. Have that talk with somebody.
Yeah, no, and I did a shirt that's actually on the website. You can see all the stuff that we have that's for sale. But one of my shirts, I can't remember. It said, I did the day, and I go, this is, Memorial Day. We mourn the loss of those died. November is, Veterans Day. We honor those who served. And then underneath it says, every day we try to stop veteran suicide.
That's awesome.
That's how I look at it. It's not one day. It's not, one day here, one day there. It's every day. Every day we have to battle this. Every day those are just walk in the morning, just to get out of bed. That's what they battle. And it's not, I appreciate, the having a day to mourn and a day to think. Why do you have to be stuck to one day? You know what I mean? That's what I struggle with is why we focused on one day. Half the time the people don't even do what they're supposed to on those days, and they're partying and getting drunk, and that's what they want to do. That's fine, but they don't think they don't go to an event and
they don't know.
You're not alone. We got you.
Well, that's the whole thing. I promise you on Veterans Day, they're not going to a veteran's home. They may say thank you for your service, which I'm gonna tell you, I appreciate every time somebody says that to me. I really, truly do. Anytime somebody says thank you for your service, I do appreciate you saying it. It means something to me.
Awesome.
But on Memorial Day, laying wreaths, doing those things, those things matter. And some of you out there that are listening to this might say, well, these two guys, they're vets. Look, it's true. I don't give a shit. This is my people. These are my folks. We will all bust each other's chops all day long. Like, the fact that Army stands for aren't ready for Marines yet. Those guys, just want to be, everybody wants to be like the big kid on the block. Navy, never again volunteer yourself. Chair Force, Puddle Pirates for the Coast Guard. you're going to hear those things. My own father, who never served a day in his life, told me one day, there's only one word you can spell out of USMC. And I said, what's that, Dad? Couldn't figure it out. It's scum. I was like, you're an ass.
I love it.
But we do those things. We love each other unconditionally. We'll bust each other's chops unconditionally. But sometimes we want you to recognize that we're there, that what we did and why we did it. They're just important things to me. And what you're doing, Chris, there's not enough that can be said. That this is a labor of love. This is a passion. Are out of curiosity, because I don't know the answer to this. Are you guys affiliated with any other 501(c)s? Have you partnered with anybody else out there? Anything like that?
No, so we haven't partnered with any other 501(c)s, but we do have sponsors. It's actually on the page as well with the website links. We have a friend, Nina Cannon. She owns a homemade candle and scents, like this little smell blocks. I don't know what they're exactly called. But she 10% of her product that she sells, she donates to the organization. A good buddy of mine, Corey, he owns.
Does she have a candle? Does she have a candle that smells like cordite?
Yeah, I bet you could ask, and they can make it happen. I know they have one that smells like gun smoke.
Well, that's cordite. Cordite is gun smoke.
Yeah, they have all that. And they have another buddy of mine. His name's Corey. His website, 3D.sups. He owns a company that sells different supplements for working out, dietary stuff, protein. You go to his site, you use 20 a day the code, 10%, you save 10%, and that money goes to the organization as well. So yeah, I got a couple small businesses because I really want to help promote them. They donate to us. Whatever they bring in, they donate 10% to the organization. So that you can find again those websites on my website under more, so you can support small businesses at the same time as supporting our vets.
Nice. You don't have to buy everything from Amazon now, folks. Doesn't all have to come from there. We're not kids anymore where all of our clothes had to come from J.C. Penney's and Sears. You can go find somebody else to get that shit from. Jeff Bezos got enough money.
Right.
Now going back to I want to go back to the VA for a second. And this has been kind of a controversial topic with the VA.
Yeah.
Now, you had a substance issue, whatever that substance was, but there's a lot of legitimate studies, good studies, that put forward the use of marijuana, THC, whatever you want to say, to deal with PTSD. Way better than, and for pain, way better than taking anything that's an opioid. That's not only is it going to destroy your liver, but if you can't get off of it, you're going to, the spiral in that for veterans is even worse. So, and if it's something you can't talk about because you have the 501(c), I completely understand. But what are your feelings on the VA being able to prescribe this? Because right now they can't, because they're a federal hospital. They can't do it because of federal guidelines.
Right. So my take on that, first is the medication. The VA went through two stages. Early 2000s, mid 2000s, when we were in the heat of the battle, guys deploying non-stops. They're supposed to be gone for a year. They're gone for a year and a half. And their time, the VA was pushing drugs on our vets nonstop. Benzos, all the controlled medication. And then they're like, oh, well, now we're getting nuts. So now, if you go in, they don't want to give you anything that's actually going to help because they're too worried about you getting addicted. I will say I have spoken to more than counselor in the VA who off record said that they highly recommend the use of marijuana for PTSD and pain. They can't prescribe it, like you said, because it's federal money. But they will tell you off record, if you can handle it and you can do it, go get it. I'm for it. I'm all anything goes out of our vets' hands. I'm all for it.
Yeah,
I personally hate taking
pills is,
you know what I mean?
the pill piece is crazy. Like I said, I can't get for whatever reason StreamYard isn't letting me put my Facebook stuff up here. But Carol, a good friend of mine, says, "Thank you both for your service. We need to do more for our service members and veterans." We do. And I don't even, you know what, Carol? I absolutely agree with that. We need to let our vets and our service members know it's okay to have things done for you. I'll even go that and take it to that angle. There's things out there for for service members that we didn't even know existed. And one of the things I will tell you that we need to stop doing is telling service members that once their service has ended, you can't use this organization anymore. You can't do this anymore. Perfect example of this is my oldest son was in the Coast Guard. We have a phenomenal facility here in Albany inside of our airport. It's not a USO. I like all the USOs in the airport. Especially traveling. If you have a family, go use a USO. It's the greatest thing you'll ever do for your family because it's so much easier. They have food. They have stuff for kids to do. If you're a single service member, you can take a nap. If you're a service member and just need a friendly face, there's a friendly face there. My son went to go use the one here. He was in the Coast Guard. He had his VA medical card. They wouldn't let him in. They said, you can't come in. You're no longer in. This is just for active duty and retirees. And I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. So you're going to turn your door to a service member who maybe that guy just needs to see somebody else. Like we just said, maybe that person has PTSD. Maybe that person has some issue where they need to be around other people of like minds and like thoughts. Thanks, Deb. We love you, brother. Like minds, like thoughts, and they just need somebody to listen to them, somebody to hear them. And you're going to tell them at that door, nah, you can't come in here because you don't want them to take a friggin' juice box.
Right.
That just blew my mind. And my son didn't need that, but he wanted a place to sit down around other people. He struggled with that. Civilians don't make sense to him. And if you've never known anyone in the Coast Guard, folks, I deployed in the Marine Corps. Chris deployed in the Army. We didn't deploy for shit like a Coast Guard does. I'm going to promise you that those guys deploy more than... What? No, they don't. They do not have the hardest basic training.
They do.
No, they don't. You can look up anything you want. It's modeled. It's modeled after Marine Corps boot camp. But you know, come on. The Marine Corps is the only branch of service. If other branches of service were like, well, we're going to do 13 weeks now because you guys do 13 weeks. That poor kid in boot camp is going to be there for 6 months. The Marine Corps is going to be like, oh, how long? Oh, you're going to try to match us? Forget about that shit. 6 months. Boot camp is 6 months now. You'll have your first. You'll be a damn corporal before you get out of boot camp now. But yeah, man, it's just one of those kind of things that some of these organizations stop turning your door to people just because they're no longer on active duty or they didn't retire. They did their time. They did their piece. Make sure that you recognize that. You know, that VA medical card in my book is just as good as a retiree ID. That's my piece for that.
Yeah, I definitely want to touch on that as well. I know you're just like I am. We didn't do it for the benefits. We didn't do it because God knows our benefits aren't really that great anyway. But we don't do it for the extra stuff. But it's like when you fly. So they say all active duty personnel can board first. I tried to board. They're like, you're not active duty anymore. I'm like, okay. I didn't throw sticks like ever. But it's the thing. They think just because you're out, you're no longer that soldier or you're no longer that Marine. I don't know about the other branches because I don't know. Marine, say a former Marine to a Marine. You don't say that. Once a Marine, always a Marine, and once a soldier, you're always a soldier. You know what I mean? So for you to take us because we're not active duty anymore, it's kind of another thing that it's a slap in the face a little bit.
Right.
And that's and again, do it for those perks or whatever you want to call them, but it's kind of how it feels. And another thing I want to talk about too on the VA, and I know I get stuck on the VA because I have a lot of issues with the VA. Things that we could be doing that could help our soldiers, way more than what we do. I brought up to my counselor one day. It's like, hey, how come they don't have, an on-call like they do for regular doctors for mental health? Why don't they have an on-call specialist? That if someone's really struggling that bad, that they can call. I was like,
right.
Not veterans aren't typically struggling as bad because if they're working, they're working. They're not
right. Your
at
mind's
home.
occupied.
Right. On the weekends, you're not working. I mean, you may be, but on the weeks, a lot of struggle is after hours and on the weekends. So I asked that simple question. Her answer to me was, and this wasn't from my counselor, this is from the higher ups because she actually it doesn't fit the VA financially.
I'm not surprised. That doesn't surprise me.
How do you put a dollar sign on our veterans? And that's something that I fight with them. My local here, they don't like it when I walk through the door. They don't. I brought a vet in one day, and this is just another horse story. I brought a vet in one day. He was barely talk, couldn't hear, and he asked me to represent him, which I do. I do that when it comes to the organization. I go in as the president. Therefore, if someone hits me, I was like, "Hey, I need help." I go in, I represent. You can no longer tell me I can't be inside the facility.
Like a VSO.
Correct. So I brought a guy in, and they tried telling me I couldn't be in there, and I'm like, "Well, you're violating rights now." He has the right to choose whoever he wants to work with him, and to speak on his behalf and help him out. You cannot remove me from this premises. They threatened to call the cops on me, removed and everything. Like, please, I'll video it. I don't care. I'll video this on Facebook Live and let everybody see it. You are not kicking me out. Who I'm 100% disabled, so I'm allowed to be in the VA anyway. And you're going to this 80-year-old man. You're not going to do it. All kinds of things went down. I made a post about it, went viral and it had like thousands of shares. The VA ended up contacting me, asked me to go in and talk to the president of the hospital. I had to have someone to back me on the legal side just because we didn't know where it was going to go.
Right.
They were like, "Well, you shouldn't have been here." Well, I have the right to be here, and that's what they kept saying. When our VAs are telling us we don't have the right to be there, I showed them my AID, my 100% card, and I showed them a card that shows that I have an organization that helps with these things. They still try to kick me out. You can't do. I have all to be in this VA hospital.
Wow.
Yeah, and those are things that I hear a lot. I had an elderly lady tell me that her husband doesn't want to go to the VA because when he goes in there, he'd rather die at home. That's where we're at. We have veterans who'd rather die at home because they don't want to deal with the bullshit that they the VA. And again, that's not all VAs, like you said.
Right.
There's some great VAs out there, but the general consensus, man, it's just that to me is sad. We're supposed to take care of our vets, because I'm a vet, but our veterans should never have to be scared to go to the VA.
Right. No, I agree. I agree with you 100% there. And look, for any vet that's out there that's listening, or if you know a vet that's out there that's listening and they say, I ain't going to the VA, I ain't doing that. The other side to what Chris is telling you is unless you go, unless you put a step forward, unless these things are known, they do not change. We all got told growing up, squeaky wheel gets the grease. So, and the other side to it is how funding works. So if only one vet goes to the VA in your area, well, they're only going to fund it for one person. If 100 vets go there and they realize that, wait, we're seeing more patients, we're seeing more people, then guess what has to happen? They have to then support it that way. So this becomes a cyclic thing. The more you go, the more you see, the more people know about it. And I will tell you, it's gotten better. Only reason I can tell you that I know it's gotten better is for the simple fact that when I first got in, probably up and through probably 2008, no one talked about the VA. No one talked about going to the VA. It's like that. There's a great movie scene from the 70s. I'll have to look it up. Maybe Dibs can find it. There's a movie from the 70s where the guys were all standing in the line for the VA and they're getting no support. They're getting no help. And it really is exactly what Chris is talking about. You know, trying to get their benefits, trying to get a benefits paid to them for things that they deserve, and they can't get it. And this was back in the 70s. Some of these things are still going on today, folks. And unless you go to the VA, unless you go, you know, have somebody, you know, you push them to do the right thing, it's not going to change. It's not going to happen. And there's a lot of goofy things out there. You know, things that I can tell you right now, Chris and I could talk about all day long that have nothing to do with even the VA. Here's a VA one. You ready for this one, Chris? Wonder if you know this one. This is my favorite VA thing. So you got the GI Bill, right?
Yeah.
Now, your children were born after you got out of the service, right?
Two of them were born while I was in. One was born before I got in, one born while I was in, and two after I got in.
So the two that were born after you got out don't rate your GI Bill. Did you know that? You froze on me for a second. So the two that were born after you got out. So the two that were born after you got out of the Army do not rate any of your GI Bill money. Did you know that?
No. I do know, though, because I am 100%, they get to go to school for free in state. So
right. Free in state stuff. Yeah. But what's crazy is, so the way the GI Bill is set up, tell me if this doesn't make not a lick of sense. Folks, we're off the rails for a moment here. This is one of those vet things. You want to watch a vet lose his mind? Know that you spent your time in the service. You earned this 9/11 GI Bill. You know you're not going to use it because you were able to get a job or you got your degree while you were in, and you got to give it to your children, and find out you can't because that child was born after you got out. So the VA who controls the GI Bill says, no, you can't give that to them. They were born after your service time. Well, if you're a 22, 24-year-old young person who did your time in the service, didn't get anyone pregnant, congratulations, and didn't end up getting married, there's another one, congratulations. Right. And you then have a family and have a child and go to transfer that GI Bill. You can't transfer that GI Bill to that child because they were born after you got out. The stupidest shit ever. So there's another one for you from the VA. So,
one thing I do want to touch on. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. I'm waiting on you.
Yeah. So, okay. Excuse me. I'm getting over COVID, so don't mind me. I want to put out there is if you have a veteran who's scared to go, reach out to me. My email address is on my website. Look me up. I'm public on Facebook as well. Look me up, and if especially if you're here in Maine, I'll go with you and represent you because I'm allowed to do that. If you're out of state, your veteran doesn't want to go, they want someone to be with them, let me know. I can get them connected with somebody anywhere. I'm fortunately I've built a lot of big circle of people. So I will help make sure that you guys get, what you need. Because a lot of people, here's one for you. I don't know if you know, they have a program for veterans who can't afford housing. Mm-hmm. They have a program called HUD-VASH. If you have any kind of military disability, it's pretty much Section 8 for the veterans. People don't know about it.
No,
I have no
idea.
Yeah, you can go apply for HUD-VASH. And what they do is say you make $1,000 a month in disability or whatever, and you need $200 a month of extra to pay for housing. They'll cut a check to the people you rent from. People don't realize that.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, so and look it up. That's the kind of things that bother me. Nobody talks about it unless it's another veteran, And I say it all the time, and this is no disrespect to civilians, but we have to take care of ourselves because nobody else is. We have to take care of each
True.
other because nobody else is going to take care of us. And that's really how it comes down. I really don't get. I want to mention, for suicide, there are red flags. There's red
Yes.
flags. You just
Well,
got to
what's some of
open
those
your
red
eyes
flags?
up and see.
Well, what?
Exactly.
Let's talk about that for a second. We kind of went off on a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for 1 second, because what are some of the signs? We already talked about somebody who turns. Here's something for you folks that before I let Chris get into this. How many suicide prevention classes did you get while you were in? Annual training.
We had one a year, and it was. I don't even think it talked about prevention or what to do really. Other than if someone says that, they're thinking about suicide, you report to the first sergeant. That's about
Oh
it.
God. See, now we used to get. I felt like the ones in the Marine Corps was constant suicide prevention. They always showed the Navy guy who blew his jaw off. We were constantly with that stuff. But no. So what are some of the signs that people should be in the lookout for?
I'm gonna, I've seen from people in my personal, kind of what I did. For one, if you have a veteran who's normally outgoing, does that can be a sign of depression setting in. That can be a time where they're starting to go down, especially around anniversary dates. If you find out from life or if what their anniversary dates are struggling for. For me, June is horrible. That's the anniversary date for my best friend who committed suicide in June. I month of June, miserable during the month of June. In September, I struggle because his birthday's in September. So those 2 months, I know. My wife knows that. She knows that those times of the year. So she's extra cautious. And so remember that more than you remember their birthday. Anything. Those are when you're going to start seeing things go downhill. If they start, one thing too is they start giving things away. They're like, oh, I don't need this anymore. So they'll give a TV away to a friend or a couch or this or that. That's another warning sign. That's a sign where they're like, okay, I don't need this anymore. Well, why don't need it anymore? What are they thinking? Especially if you have that at the same time as someone going and isolating themselves. Now they're trying to give stuff away. At that point, you need to. Listen, if you ask a veteran if they're thinking about committing suicide, it's not going to offend them. It may one or two. I've talked to many, and I mean I've talked. Phone open 24. I say there's no time limit when someone needs to talk to me. So I'll get phone calls sometimes at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. They want to talk. I'll ask them right out. If I get that sense, are you thinking about killing? They don't get mad. A lot of times they're going to be honest with me and say, yeah, I am. Who can we get in contact of right now? Or if it's someone here at home in Maine, I will drive to their house. I don't care. So ask. That really does help. Ask. And for them to have to think about it and then to comment, it's them from trying something. That's the thing. They say if you have a gun lock on your gun, the time it takes you to take that off. You're thinking about you. It delays you that much more that you're going to be like, oh, maybe I really don't want to do this. It's the same thing. If someone's struggling, you talk to them. The more you talk, the more they take away from that ledge. And understand them. Don't criticize them. It doesn't matter if you don't agree with them. Don't criticize them in that state of mind. Give them tough love, but don't they're being weak or get over it or any of that bullshit, because that's going to make it worse. If people all of a sudden, you have a member that you talk close, but you never said I love you or anything to, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, I love you. That's another thing you need to really start watching. because now they're trying to they're keep you before they leave. They want to make sure that you know they love you and they care about you. You know, so just simple things like that. I mean, one it may not be anything, but when you start adding these things together, that's when you really need to be like, all right, I need to go to their house right now. I need to talk to them. And the thing I really, really, really want to stress is if you have someone that you need to go check on, first, I highly let yourself go in there not knowing.
You broke up for a second there, Chris. Say it again. You highly what? Say it again, Chris. You broke up. I don't want to lose you. You there, Chris?
You need to go check on. I'm still here.
Okay. Say it one more time. Yep, I can hear you again. So you said if you had somebody that you need to check on, and then I lost you.
Yeah. If you have someone you need to check on, if you're not a veteran yourself, try to get a veteran buddy with you. Because when people in that state of mind are having a flashback or someone that's military, they don't want a civilian. Again, that's not knocking civilians, but they want someone there that has gone through it.
Right.
Second of all, never, ever, I'm not going to say never, ever, but try to keep the cops out of it. That's the worst thing you can do. And this is why. I know a lot of people probably going to be like, what? What do you mean? And I kind of saw your face, Sean. But don't keep the cops out of it. And the reason why I say that is because if you have a veteran in that much distress, okay, and say he's having a flashback, right, like an enemy, even though they're not, even though they're trying to help, if they're in that flash, I had this happen with a buddy of mine. I had to wrestle him because he thought he was fighting the Taliban. If a cop came in at that point before me, that could have been a physical altercation and suicide by cop. Well, I always say cops should be your last line of defense.
Right. Somebody of a social worker, call a social worker, get someone who understands. No, I understand. And, and we hear that more and more now that, and look, I have a lot of friends that are in police, I have family that are police, but remember that gun on their hip is not to protect you, it's to protect them. So in those situations, they don't know. And that's a stigma. Look, let's go ahead and dispel another stigma real quick. We don't all want to hurt ourselves. We're not all going to zap out in the workplace and hurt you. No. We do work very hard. I would say 90% of us work very hard to speak civilian. And we try to do it very hard. If you talk to us and let us know, hey, this doesn't work in this workplace, we will try, but that's something we run into, and that causes some of our problems where we have issues connecting when we get out, because we try to talk like we these people who know our pain and know what we've gone through talked, and then somebody looks at us and goes, what did you say? Like, I use the word cattywampus all the time. I love cattywampus. I think it's a great term, and it's funny. I understand when people are like, what'd you say? I'm like, cattywampus. That shit's cattywampus. And they look at me and they're like, huh? And it's funny, but there's plenty of other terms that when I first got out, that we would use in the service that meant nothing. I won't repeat them here. This isn't the right place to repeat it. But I had somebody come to me one time and he was like, hey man, I don't appreciate that. And at first I was offended by him not appreciating what I said, because I was in my 40s at that point, and this was a kid in his mid early 20s. You think you are talking to me, young man? You better go take your ass back to mommy's skirt. Do you understand who you're talking to? And he was right. It took me a minute to understand that and to go back and go, you know what? He's right. I'm not there anymore, but you got to help us. And that doesn't mean, oh, excuse me, young man, you no longer can say fill in the blank. Talk to somebody, help them out. But understand we're your neighbors, you're your friends, we're your family. These things go through our heads. And I don't know for you, Chris, what your experience, because you experience this all the time with folks, but I really think that transition and not being able to go back is a trigger for a lot of guys. Is that something that you've
Yeah,
experienced with folks?
yeah. I mean, I've experienced it with I experienced it with myself. I can't go back to have a brain injury. I would love to be in the military right now. I struggle with it. It actually puts me in a depressed mood because I wanted to make it a career. I
Well,
got hurt.
thanks. I
Listen,
appreciate that. I brought that up for you. Congratulations. I brought that up.
yeah,
Yeah. Go ahead. Thanks, man. Go
yeah,
ahead and say some more mean shit to me.
I was able to do more this year because I got out. And I mean, we're gonna be honest. I tried to bribe the doctors to say I was fine, so I
Oh
could
shit.
stay in. Yeah, they're like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Legal, and we're not supposed to find your paperwork. I'm like, come on, I want to stay in. But it's just that's something. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of guys and girls struggle with that. They want to be in, especially in the situation we just had in Afghanistan where we left our Marines behind.
Right. No. Yeah.
You
That's
know,
absolutely right.
I don't know how many people are like, let's go get them ourselves. You know what? The government don't want to do it. Cool. Let's go. When we see things like that, and that's another thing you got to watch for triggers. When you have something major like that happen in the news, check on a veteran. Hey, how are you doing? How are you doing stuff? Because a lot of times that just fires us up. I mean, it pisses us off. And it say go off from what you're saying about how we talk. Just so you guys have very dark sense of the military sense of humor is extremely dark. So if we laugh at something that shouldn't be laughed at, don't take it personal. Oh,
We're working on it. I promise we're trying.
yeah, yeah, we're
It is one
trying,
of the.
but that's
Yeah. And I will
yeah,
tell you, and I don't
man.
know if you experienced this or not, Chris, but I will talk with another service member in a way like if we weren't on these open airs. I can promise you, folks, if you were a fly on the wall listening to me, Chris, and if Dibs was on here, talk, it would be completely different language, completely different mannerisms. And I'm not trying to say that we're putting on a front or anything here, but it's just different. It's no different than when you go into your house and you're talking to your family. Your mannerisms behind those doors are different, and they're different for us. Again, folks, please take the time. Uh, Go to 22 a day VLM.com. Support Chris. Support his organization. Support vets. 100% of everything that you purchase from that site goes to purchasing a hunk of land in Maine for the moose because there's nothing else in Maine. What the hell is anyone going to Maine
What are
for?
you talking? Come on, man. The moose is so far up north. I'm not that far up north, man. We call
There's
that the county.
nothing there's nothing but moose there. There is a great, I will say, sidebar. There is like a great spot up there. My wife and I want to go to. It's one of the lakes up north that the Navy has a spot up there that you can use. It's like gorgeous. I can't remember the name
Oh,
of it though.
you must be talking about where they do SEER school.
No, this is like a resort. This is one of the resorts. No, it's a resort.
Oh, I wonder if it's geez, it's on the coast. I think I know what you're talking about. It's right on the ocean.
Yeah, it's like all these little lakes and everything out there. It's beautiful. But make sure you're going to 22 a day, VLM.com, 22 a day, Vet Lives Matter on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure, Great Pond. Joel, you're absolutely 110% correct. It is Great Pond. Joel for the win. Great Pond. I forgot
Oh, Joe, good stuff, brother.
what, Joel, it is Great Pond. We tried to go up there. My wife and I and kids were going to stay in a yurt just because I want to say I stayed in a yurt one time. But like, it's even fun to say. Just next time you're feeling sad, just say the word yurt. If you don't feel better saying the word yurt, I don't understand. So see, look, you can't even not laugh, Chris, when you think about saying the
Yeah,
word yurt.
yeah. It's one of those words, man.
Chris, say yurt. Let's see if Chris will say yurt. Say yurt, Chris.
You're
Yurt. See, but see, I told you. And this is vet humor. There's nothing about that should be freaking funny, but we find it funny. But make sure you go on to 22 a day vet lives matter VLM dot 22 a day VLM.com. Pick up his merch. Support the folks that are supporting him. Now you said what's the candle, lady? We're gonna get Chris a cell phone signal. That's the next thing we're getting him.
Nina does call me. It's her name's Nina. She does a company called Dream with Me. If you actually go on my website, you click up at the top right hand corner, it'll have a drop down that sponsors list everybody that I've partnered with and how they donate to the organization.
Perfect. So that's another bit of transparency also. So go on to 22 a day VLM.com. You can see the sponsors, you can get items, you can support Chris. I want all of us to go on to his Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Start following, start sharing. Do your part. It matters that much. It means that much. If you have any problems getting a hold of him through his stuff, you can always reach out to me and I can get a hold of Chris. Our Facebook, the Above the Bar Podcast, Twitter at Above the Bar 4, Instagram, the Above the Bar Podcast, Twitch, the Above the Bar Podcast. Email is the Above the Bar Podcast at gmail.com. You can always find us. Chris, you got any events coming up? Anything where they could go and kind of see what's going down here?
Right now, I don't have a lot of events lined up. I'm hoping to start getting some on. Winter time's a little tough, but I some things in the works. And when we do have events, that will also be posted on the website under the events tab. So pretty much anything you want to find out, it's right on there. And I mentioned it earlier, my phone's always open. You can send me a Facebook message. I believe my telephone number is on the website. You know, if you need help with a vet or if you're a veteran, help, hit me. I'll do everything in my power. I've been fortunate enough. I got a lot of donors out there. If, you know, someone's in the need, they help. So a buddy of mine who is a veteran, he ended up getting real depressed because, you know, he lost his job due to not want to take the vaccine. And I made a little post, and I think he ended up getting like $2,000 in less than 24 hours to help pay for some of his bills and food. So, and kind of give him a little more energy.
That's awesome, man. You know, that's what it's about. It's about supporting each other and supporting the community
and everything. I don't want people to think, you know, even $1 donation for how you can. And if you can't, it's not all about the donations either. You know, obviously we want donations, but you really want to help us, point veterans to our website. Point our web and to our vets and let them know they're not alone. That can do just as much help.
Brother, I appreciate you coming on. We appreciate your time. We're going to get ready to put the close sign up here at the bar again. 22 a day,
Yes,
Veteran Lives Matter. We have Chris Larsen on here with us. Go support their website, 22 a day, VLM.com. Make sure you go onto their Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You start following, sharing their stuff. Get the word out. We'll go ahead and at the end of this, when I post this tonight, we'll put it on there. I'm going to plug myself for a minute because it's got to happen. So for all of you that are following all of our stuff, I'm going to ask that all of you that haven't followed us on whatever form of podcast that you may have on your phone, make sure you go on there and you look up the Above the Bar Podcast and you look for the one with the smiling face wearing a fedora, and you start following us on your podcast apps, because that's how this gets out. This is how Chris's word gets out. This is how more people know about it. That's how all the algorithms work, because other than that, you're just keeping it at your house and only you know about it. So the only way that this happens is all this gets shared around and it gets the word out. Chris, make sure you don't log off after this because we got to talk for a moment. But as I always say, the guest gets the last word. So what's the last word of the day? I think we lost him. Chris, are you there?
I missed. If you want to, I'm back. Yeah, I'm here.
You get the last word of the day, brother. Yep, I can hear you. What you get the last word of the day? Yep, we're here. Can you hear me?
Hey, Big Al. I missed. I didn't answer you earlier. If you want to volunteer, hit me up on Messenger on Facebook, and we can talk. My last message is to veteran brothers and sisters. I love you guys. You're not alone, and never give up. Your story is just beginning.
All righty, folks. Be sure to push your stool in.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation, found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.